Anyway, so Gavin, I was talking to you about this on the phone like a week or two ago, but I listen to Marvel's Pull List. It's a weekly podcast that they do where they have a couple of fucking interns or whatever talk about the comics that came out that week, and they usually do like
love Ant-Man.
they do like a deep dive on like a particular like story
Ant-Man.
arc or one shot or whatever.
That's how they
They
sound,
usually
by the way.
interview like the author involved. It's really cool stuff. But the one thing that I don't really like about it is like how closely tied it is to Marvel, like as a company. Because like you just so happen to both love every single comic series that is out right now. Like it's not that I want them to like trash like any series, but it doesn't feel like anytime they
maybe
recommend.
you just don't get it. Maybe you just don't get, the secret genius of Ant-Man.
Well, like I don't feel like I'm listening to a recommendation. I feel like I'm listening to an ad.
You're just not on the same level.
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, I wish there was something like that was, produced weekly like that show is, that, went in depth like they do, that just was like independent. Because like I want like actual people's opinions.
Like a podcast.
Yeah. Well, like
like a superhero podcast.
My first recommendation is a podcast called Absolute Comics. It's by the guy that does the Comic Story and YouTube channel. But the one thing that I don't like about it is they upload like once every month, if that. And it's not really like they'll kind of like rant for like an hour about a particular thing. I like it. They know a lot about the industry. They have a lot of good insights. Like they know like the process. They know a lot about like the creative side of it.
I now have another recommendation.
Okay, we can get to that in a second.
Sorry.
But yeah, I wish that it was more of like a weekly thing. Like if I wish they talked about like stuff that's like coming out. They gave like recommendations. Like it's surprising how little like week to week coverage there is of like comics that are coming out, because it's still like a fairly popular medium. But
right.
Yeah, there's just not the same kind of coverage that you see for like movies and TV shows.
Right.
And you don't really know, like the part of why it's hard to get into comics is you don't know what's good or not. You don't know what to read.
You get very little feedback too.
Yeah. Well, like one of the most popular series has been since it came out, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Right.
And it's been shit for the past like decade. Like people have not liked it, but it's still one of the most popular ones because people know it. But you don't like people have been talking about it on YouTube, how bad it's been. But like you don't see a lot of like recommendations for what to read and what not to read. And like what little weekly coverage there is just from the people that produce the comics.
Right. Big comic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just kind of that's been my thing lately. Like I've been getting into comics and reading a lot of different series, but yeah, I just wish there were more people covering them. And I don't know, I feel like if there were more people, like with the Amazing Spider-Man thing, for example, I feel like it's kind of a niche thing. Like the comic run, like right now, like people don't like it. It's pretty negatively regarded. But I just think there's not enough people making a stink about it to make like an actual meaningful change.
Right.
Because the problem isn't any of the particular writers. Like they have Zeb Wells on it right now, and he's doing like, it's fine. I liked the first like arc of the series. Then it kind of went into like a big like crossover event that I wasn't too jazzed about. But like, there was something there. But the problem is editorial. Like the people like making the big decisions don't want Peter Parker as a character to progress past like, his 20s basically. Well, like he had progressed for decades. Like he was married to Mary Jane Watson. Like they had a kid on the way, but they were like afraid to let the character progress. So they just, I might have talked to you about this, but they had him literally in universe make a deal with the devil to save Aunt May's life. And in exchange, he gave Mephisto, like Marvel's devil, his marriage to Mary Jane Watson. Like the devil wanted to just undo it. And the weird thing is, like, the issue before that happened, he was like Peter was being taught why that's a bad decision because he's running away from his responsibilities. And then the very next issue, he's like, I'm actually going to make that deal with the devil. And that's been the status quo at Marvel. Like he is always either unemployed or like on the verge of bankruptcy. He's always like just being kicked around. He's always had like the Parker luck, but it just feels like it's taken to such an extreme now where he's not even allowed to be even momentarily happy.
Right.
And yeah, like it's all just an editorial decision. He's not like I haven't read the most recent issue, but they basically had him be like, yeah, I don't actually love Mary Jane Watson. Like, I think of her like a sister, actually. And like, bro, that was your soulmate for decades.
You made out with her upside down.
Yeah.
On assumably multiple occasions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I don't get what they're trying to do because he's been stagnant.
Right.
He's just been stagnant and like his stories are boring because it doesn't feel like he's allowed to have any character growth or development or learn any meaningful lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish they would let him grow up, let him have just a steady job, right? Like he's had like steady jobs before. Like he has had degrees of success, but for one reason or another, they always have to take it away.
I hate to say this, but does Tony Stark exist in that universe?
Yeah.
So, like, why don't they have a thing where, like, I don't know, he gets a job with, like, Stark Industries, but, like, Stark knows that he's Spider-Man, right? And has him, like, as a lead developer on certain technologies.
Well, right now, Peter is working at Oscorp. So, Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
He's, like, good now. There was like a villain that took away, he was called Sin Eater, and he like took away Norman Osborn's sin. So like now he remembers doing evil shit, but he's like not evil now. It's kind of a weird thing, but that's what's going on right now. Meanwhile, Stark Industries like has its own stuff going on. Basically, Tony Stark isn't rich anymore. He spent all of his money buying up all of like the weapons of mass destruction in the world.
Oh.
Like all of like the supervillain weapons.
Right.
And he's like, his whole thing is he's like, yeah, I bought all of these. I'm going to dismantle them so no one can use them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what he like spent the last of his fortune on.
Right.
And it was a cool thing. Like, it was like what they had him doing at the end of his most recent run and, what he's doing at the start of this run.
I just realized if Dr. Oz started a company, it should be called Oscorp.
With a Z, so it's legally distinct.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't like that they won't let Peter Parker progress. Like everyone that like cares about the character wants him to be able to like get married, have a kid, like just be happy with his life.
Right.
Cuz they're just not doing anything with the character. They just have him reset to the same status quo where he's unsuccessful. Hold on. They tell him, hold on. This is what Marvel editorial says to Peter Parker.
You're radically unsuccessful. You're a giant loser. Like a giant who is a loser and also a giant loser.
That's what they say to him.